Nick, thanks for being here, mate.
Pleasure, mate. Thanks for having me.
Just want to just jump straight in. So what made you get into acting?
Geez, you are jumping straight in. What got me into acting? Look, I'm going to start right at the start. I actually did, I went to a Catholic school and I did a performance when I was in, I reckon, year one. And it was of a church mouse. Mm-hmm. It sounds ridiculous now I'm saying it out loud. But I was a church mouse and I had about 3 lines. But it was, I'm going to say, one of the best characters in the whole thing. He got plenty of laughs. It was this thing. And I remember just enjoying that experience. And so that kind of started the interest in it. Like, oh, this is a really interesting thing. I think as I started to get into acting a little bit more, the reasons changed. Not just that idea of getting laughter and, I guess, attention. But now it's this thing where I find a little bit of catharsis in it. Mm-hmm. I love exploring worlds. And yeah, it's just one of those experiences, I think, acting, where you get to experience different worlds. You get to explore your own emotional landscape. Mm-hmm. And hopefully by doing that, you then affect the audience in a certain way. Mm-hmm. And that's the part that I really like, because I tend to get quite analytical on things. Yeah. But in the moment, you start to explore this emotional landscape, and hopefully that then it goes on and affects people. Like we were just talking about the short film that I did around mental health, and the impact of that gave me, this is what it's about, right? Mm-hmm. Like exploring, going to places and then capturing that and then seeing either the audience's reaction to that or having a conversation off the back of that. I think that's at the heart of why I love it.
So with the short film, you took it to festivals. And is that where you're getting that feedback?
Well, actually, where we got the first feedback, we had a premiere in my little hometown of Kundruk, which is about 600 people.
Okay.
And
is this in New South Wales?
It's on the border, so on the Murray River.
Okay.
Yeah. So the film itself was set in that area. It was loosely inspired by events that happened in that area. Mm-hmm. And so the community was really open to it. And I was saying to you, as we were filming, because it was about suicide and mental health, people were reliving these moments and telling us the stories, mm-hmm. Which was really powerful for me when I was developing that character, because it became really real, you know, in the moment. But then, at the premiere, to answer your question, I mean, the Q&A turned into therapy, mate, like for the community.
Yeah. That was all of the ones we'd had for The Promise.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
Like there was maybe one question. We'd done 17 screenings of this Promise. Yeah. There was one question around filmmaking. Yeah,
similar vibe, right?
Yep.
And I found that really amazing, because the energy was just amazing in the room, and the vulnerability of people to share like that. And, we've got vox pops of people getting really raw emotionally about it. And I get a bit emotional thinking about it, actually, and I'm sure you do with The Promise. But
the power of story.
Yeah, isn't it? That's the thing. So, that's the thing that drives me now, I think, is that impact that it can have.
Yeah. And so the premiere went well, and everyone was like, so it was a Q&A that everyone started opening up? Or
So it actually started a whole thing, right? We did the Q&A and we realised it was a therapeutic session, and we're like, we need to tour this film. And I think it's similar to your story in some ways, from what I know of The Promise. We were working with regional communities. We said, let's take the film, use the film as an opportunity to start a conversation, have a psychologist there, and let's open up the floor.
Nice.
And of course, COVID came along.
Yep.
And everything went away. Yep. And then by the time COVID was over, myself and my business partner, Lauren, we kind of went, is this the right time for this story? And there were some things in our personal lives, and also I just think in the community, that meant it probably wasn't the right story to be told at the right time. And I know that sounds odd, because mental health we need to talk about at any time, but it just felt like that moment had passed ever so slightly, and we had new projects on the horizon that we wanted to explore.
With it being like a real story in a small town, how close were you to the truth? Did you change the names of the characters?
Absolutely. Yeah. It was loosely based.
Yeah.
We didn't, because again, real people, real lives, we didn't want it to be too close to that. I did check in regards to that particular story, I did check in with a friend of mine who it affected quite closely, and she was happy for me to, tell the story as it was, not too close to her story. But again, it wasn't necessarily that, because as I said, there was that moment in time, but then I was working at a particular agency at the time, and a gentleman who was smiling all the time. He was happy-go-lucky. He was the life of the party, and he committed suicide at that time. And I just remember going, what? I didn't understand it because I was like, this is a guy that seemed like he had his life together, was very happy. All of those things that you go, yeah, like he doesn't need to have a conversation about his mental health, or he's still fine in life. And you go, you just don't know, hey. And so that was the thing that sort of sparked it. And I was really lucky that Lauren was like, yeah, let's tell this story. And it started as a men's mental health story.
Yeah.
But it soon got broader because at the end of the day, you know, men's mental health affects the community.
Yeah.
Right? There's an impact that happens.
Yeah.
So it became a broader story, and I think that's where it really started to sing. And I'm sure you've had this as well. When a project's really zinging like that, you're like, yeah, and you ride that wave.
Yeah.
Because you know it's having an impact.
Yeah.
You have other projects. I've had other projects. I don't know if you have. Where you're like, this is just, there's roadblocks here, left, right, and centre, and this doesn't feel like it's really rolling.
Yeah.
That was a project where everyone we spoke to wanted to be a part of it. And it grew into this wonderful beast.
Yeah.
That, I really think it had some great impact.
I get that so much when I've got ideas all the time.
Yeah.
I've got a list of films I want to make. So many docos, like people now ringing up and coming to us with their story. And it's like, how do I know which one to pursue?
Yep.
And I heard somewhere where it's just like, if it's the one that's like sits with you.
Yeah.
I think it was more, the quote was probably more, don't write something down because if it's important enough, you will remember it.
Yeah.
And I kind of was like, okay, like the ones that sit with me, like 2 weeks pass, like which doco was that one again? Like it just, they disappear, but one you just can't let go of.
Yeah.
One story. And committing to write a script. I've just finished a script, a draft on thanks.
Yeah.
It was a bit of a mish. But
Always are, that's
so many I've written and then I'm like, oh, I don't even want to do this.
Yeah.
As soon as I finished, it was kind of like I was using it to deal with what I was going through in my life, and then I just put it to bed.
Served its purpose, mate.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Just served its purpose.
Yeah.
And I heard this interesting. We were doing a podcast the other day. I run a podcast called The Act of Storytelling, and we caught up with Andrea Denham. It'll be out later down the track. But she was talking about this, around the difference between idea and story. Mm-hmm. The idea that, you can have lots of ideas, but actually developing that out into a project that is worth making is a completely different thing. Because she was like, right, and that's how we choose projects. Like, is it the right genre? Is it the right time? There's all these things. Have you got the right talent connected to it? Is it, do people want to hear this story? Like, there's all these things. So ideas, she was saying, are like, everyone has them. But then the actual heart of a story, there's so much more that goes with that to get it to the actual production stage and to get it to the making and making sure it's got impact. So I really love that too, because I was like, yeah, because I have all these ideas too. And you go, oh, that's a great idea. And then a week or two later you go, what? I don't remember what I was talking about with that. Or you start a project and you go, yeah, awesome. Well, that kind of served its purpose and I'll move on and I'll do my next thing.
Yeah. Hey, so you get a script today. What do you do to evaluate if you're going to do it or not?
Oh, another great question.
Do you have to connect with the character in a certain way?
Yeah. So I'll look at it from an acting perspective first of all. I definitely have to connect with that character. I have to find my meaning within that character. The fact that I can play it in a way that no one else can. And if it does that, that's a really good starting point. And it's got to be, I also have a big thing on working with the right people.
Yeah.
I imagine you're probably the same. You get to a point, I guess, in this industry where you're like, it's got to be an enjoyable, life-affirming experience, or else why am I doing it?
It can be an uphill battle.
Yeah. So that is part of it. Like I go, okay, well, what is this project and who is involved? Can I connect to it? I have to read the whole story, because once again, the character can be good, but if the story feels a bit off, then is it just for the show reel? Yeah. What is it? So yeah, they're kind of the first things. And then the other thing, I know this is a weird one, but it's not a weird one. It's balance. I have 2 kids. I have a family. I have a corporate job as well that keeps me, keeps a roof over my head. If I'm going to take time out, it's got to be at the right time, and have not an incredible impact that I feel like I'm dropping the ball in my family life as well. Yeah. So balance is a big thing for me.
Do you ever have like this come into my life for a reason, or like them serendipity moments where you're like, maybe I should just do this because of just the weird circumstances how it come about?
Yeah, I do. And I think about just did a film called Sight Unseen.
I want to talk about that.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. But I remember thinking not long before I got the brief for that, going, I'd really like to do a movie next. Like this is just a random thing. And I go, okay, but that's a random thought. Why do you want to do a movie? And I'm like, because I really want to go deep on a character that that I can explore in a way that maybe I haven't explored before. And do you know what I mean? And I kind of went, maybe it could be this type of thing. And I started doing that. And then the audition came up and I went, yeah, okay, let's go for this. And as I said, then I felt like I really, sounds weird to say this about a psychotic mass killer, but I really connected with the reasoning behind it. You know what I mean? Like I just went, okay, I can explore this in a way that no one else can.
How was it acting with a mask?
Oh man, there's a whole story on this. So when I auditioned originally, I went for a different role, and the wonderful Zach Garrett,
legend,
legend, absolute legend, such a legend. He ended up getting that role, and they said, "Hey, we've cast this role, but we want you to come back for the masked killer." And I went, "Okay." The reason I didn't go for it originally was in the brief, it was like he's this big, bulky, kind of reacher type character, you know. And I went, "Well, it's not me, mate," you know. And then they came back to me and they said, no, but you can also do that psychologically. And I went, oh yeah, the intimidation psychology. Yeah, cool. I can play with that. And so
I've seen a few scenes and you killed it.
Oh mate, thank you.
So like really impressed, eh?
Oh, that's so lovely to hear.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was away at the time. I was in Dubai for a gig and they said, can you come in this week? I said, no, I'm away. They're like, well, when you get back, can you come and audition for this character? And I said, yeah. And I was on a family holiday at the time as well, off the back of the gig. So I didn't want to think about it too much. I said, when I get back, I'll really dive into the character. I got back, I dived into the character. I went psychological with it. I get into the audition room. They said, all right, let's do it. I went, yeah, let's do this.
It's face to face.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I got back and I go, let's do this. And I went, yeah, let's do this. And then they went, choose your mask. Because I had a couple of just like,
okay.
And I went, I didn't think about the mask. I had all this stuff in my head, and I had all this psychological, kindling, if you will. And then I went, oh, mask. And in that moment, I've done some mask work over a period of time. So I just remember going, all right, take your moment. Everything that you've done, how do you start to embody that? Do you know what I mean? So once again, where often we're really tight. You know, you were certainly not getting that in the audition room that you were just seeing my eyes. So how does he move? And I started to play later on down the track with things like animal work. So because of the way the mask is shaped, really playing with the crow. Because the crow is a really interesting beast that sort of moves its head in a really interesting way. And I really love that. So when he was in control, he could move his head and really fuck with people. But when he was out of control, he turned and he was the rabid dog. So he would go, fuck, you know, like he'd turn. Sorry for the everyone.
Someone's driving down the front.
Shit. But yeah, so I love that idea of control versus chaos. And that was the character. And so once again, how do you embody that? And it's a scary thing, right? Like if you can't see someone's eyes, it's a scary thing because you don't know what they're thinking. And so I really love that, playing with the mask. So to be honest, by the end of the film, I did another gig like a couple of weeks after and I felt nude.
Really?
Yeah, because I was so used to being in the mask, in the big dryzer bone that I had. It was like this cocoon and you could kind of transform. And then when you took it off, it was like, oh, yeah, it's quite vulnerable, isn't it? You know? Yeah. So yeah, it's an amazing experience. Yeah, loved it.
When you're drawing on that, like what do you like? Are you pulling it from experiences or like?
So do you mean like the inner world of the character? Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So I have this thing that I speak about that often villains, they don't think of themselves as villains. They're the hero in their story, right? They're fighting for something. So I really played on that idea that, you know, even serial killers, you know, they might kill something, but us in our lives, we have all have that thing that we would kill for. Like it's my kids, I know that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So now acting on it is a whole other thing, and that's the difference between insanity and sanity, right?
Yeah.
But there are things that drive you to go, I am doing something righteous right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where I think the interesting thing comes in with characters like that is he doesn't think he's the villain in this story. He thinks he's the hero.
Yeah.
And that's the interesting place to play.
Yeah.
Much more interesting because, again, you don't want to go into the trope of the villain, especially in a mask.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you go into those tropes, then I don't think you get the humanity or the authenticity in it. Mm-hmm. So hopefully that's what came through.
Is there a character that you've seen in another movie that you like feel like he's close to? Or
I didn't specifically go for any characters in that. I did have a couple of, I'm quite a visual person, so I create a bit of a document. It's a PowerPoint, what a nerd. But I created a PowerPoint on my character and I had some images on the front page. One was No Country for Old Men, by Dem in that. Another one was Damien Herriman in Mindhunters when he played Charles Manson. I just loved his portrayal of that. It was just so there's a couple of characters like that I went, and the reason, again, those two characters, the stillness was amazing in those two characters, if you remember.
Yeah.
And there was the other thing about Harriman in the Charles Manson one was there was charisma in the way that he portrayed Manson in that as well, which, again, Manson, from all reports, was like that. But yeah, so there was a couple on there, but I wouldn't say they were too tied into the way that I ended up playing the character.
Have you seen it yet?
The film?
Yeah.
We actually went up to the Actor Festival a couple of weeks ago.
Did they screen it?
They screened a couple of scenes and we talked about them off the back. So yeah, I've seen it.
You've seen the whole...
Not the whole thing.
No.
No. And this is the thing now, like, again, Tritt and Brady, who were co-directing this, and then obviously it's their project as well, I have complete faith in the edit from them. So I'm really looking forward to seeing it. But even at Actor Festival, I hadn't seen anything. So I was sitting in the panel and about to talk about a scene. I'm like...
And then they played it.
God, I hope this is good.
How'd it look?
Yeah, I loved it. Like, as I said, I think we had a really good connection. The four actors that were there, Nadia, Olivia and Zach, all from different acting backgrounds too, you know, like we didn't come at it the same way, which I think is really interesting. But I think because we get each other as human beings, we really found a great middle ground with the way that we played with the characters. So.
Your method?
I move around. I am more method. So my training is, I'm a workshop junkie, but my main stuff comes from Chubbuck, Howard Fine, Strasbourg, that kind of area.
Yeah.
I'm not against sort of the imagination-based approach, but what I find in my work is if I do go into that space, it tends to be like imagination does. It tends to be a little bit more, I imagine that's what that situation is like, rather than if I can connect it to something personal or I can connect it to make it feel as real as possible. That's when the work surprises me, where I go, oh, that's an interesting feeling. I don't know. Like as a director, it must be an interesting thing to play with, but I feel I can go either way. Because of the fact that I've just done workshop after workshop. Like I spent a lot of time in LA, done stuff in Melbourne, Sydney, Newcastle. I never had that kind of thing on my CV that said NIDA or anything like that, but my CV has about 40 different, 6-week courses and all that kind of stuff. So
what were they?
At the courses that I did? Yeah. Oh, mate. So I've done heaps of work at Q44 Studios down in Melbourne, 16th Street down in Melbourne. Howard Fine in LA, worked with Howard himself.
Oh, wow.
Ivana Chubbuck, worked with Ivana Chubbuck herself in her masterclasses. So those two were really amazing in LA. In Sydney, the Sydney Actors Collective, Chum is an absolute superstar. I've worked with Peter Blackburn. Like I could go on for years. Now I'm at True Screen, doing a bit of teaching at True Screen as well. Yeah. But yeah, it just goes on and on and on. I could list 40 different teachers and mentors. But I like that. I like that because I feel like even with my teaching, if a person comes to me, it doesn't matter where they're from, like if they're imagination based or method or whatever you want to call it, I can usually find a way in to talk to them, which I think is most important.
Yeah. And you're teaching acting now?
Yeah. A true screen there. So, it's good. I'm doing a thing called Craft Labs at the moment, which is kind of the acting class that I always wanted. It's so I come from a little country town. You know how you play footy and you go to training on a Tuesday and whatever days it is. I always found it so interesting that actors never did that. Like they just went, I'm going to go to a class every now and again, or I'm going to go to scene study, and maybe nothing against scene study, but you get up for 15 minutes and the rest of the time is watching.
Yep.
Nothing against that, but I think you get to a point where you're like, okay, well, I've probably learned as much as I can in that environment. I just need to get up on my feet consistently and train my instrument.
Yeah.
So that's what it's about. It's the class I want to be a part of, where we just explore like think, feel, do. So psychology background. We'll do one piece which is about feeling, so sensory work possibly. Thinking, how do we break down scripts? And then finally the do is like get up and do. And it's a 4-hour class.
Yeah.
And I would say 90% of that is up on your feet.
Once a week?
It's every 3 weeks.
Every 3 weeks.
Just again, balance, but it's tuning the instrument is the way I see it.
I've done boxing growing up all my life.
Yeah.
And that many jabs I've thrown, like it's just that rep. And I thought about it with making movies. I was like, how can I like kind of translate that constant practice over? And I've got this idea, don't know if I'll do it or not.
No, mate, bring it on.
I want to do like a project where you find like a really small group of people, so it's just a bit more can manage and can happen. Yeah. And just get like 2 leads. Yeah. Same small camera crew, shoot it kind of doco style, and go in every single once a week. Yeah. Shoot a scene. If we got it, if we did, we'll move on. If we didn't, we shoot it the next scene. Yeah. Like the next week and the next week. Then we got it. We're happy we perfected that one. Yep. Leave it. The following week it's the next one. And just slowly over time, just keep chipping away at scene by scene by scene. Because the scene's only like a minute to 3 minutes. You can get that in a long night. Yeah. Just like, okay, everyone's always free on a Thursday night. Let's just go in for 4 hours and see if we can get it seen.
And there's no pressure to get it, right? Like you just keep doing it.
Just get the next one and just keep honing it and just let it just evolve. Yeah. It might be 2 years. Yeah. And you got to film Nick Cain.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. I immediately go to that whole sort of Mike Lee method, right? Of like just getting in a room, not telling the actors too much and then just going and getting it. And I think he was a bit the same in regards to just like not like he'd try to nail it early, but he just continued to do scenes and scenes and scenes and scenes and scenes until he had a story. But I really love that. That's a really cool idea, because going back to that idea, it's like I feel like in sport we have this thing where we're like, oh, we have to train our skills. Yeah. But in acting and maybe the arts, we think of craft, but we're not like, unless we're working consistently, you know.
Especially like we just seen COVID and how easy it is to just all of a sudden not work for a big stint.
Yeah. And especially, I think in Australia, right? So I'll take an acting perspective on this. In LA, you can be auditioning pretty bloody regularly, you know, multiple times a week. Now in Australia, it's not that easy, you know. It might be that you get one audition every 3 weeks or even longer sometimes.
And like I've heard LA's not even doing face-to-face anymore.
No. Yeah, I mean, that's a whole nother thing as well. The self-tape world. I mean, this is. Can I give you my little beef on that? Yeah. Casting agents around the country not going to love me for this. But I am really mindful of the amount of work that we're putting on actors now to do. So like you used to be able to go into the room, you know, you prepare your character, you go into the room, it'd be however long, and then you could get out and you could let it go, and if you got the role or not, fine. You'd also get a little bit of feedback in the room, so you know pretty quickly when you're walking out going, they're never going to call me again, or vice versa, right? But now you do a self-tape, right? And the process is you get the audition, you have to like work through the character, you have to then find someone to read with you, you've got to then have a good understanding of camera and lighting and setup, and you've got to do that somewhere. You then get however many takes, it's not over yet. You then got to take it back. You've got to edit it together, pick your favourite takes. How long does that take? Another couple of hours possibly. And then you've got to send it. Like it's a whole process, and then you may never hear anything, so you don't get that feedback like you would in the room about, you know, like the director's looking for X, or, you know, maybe you could try it like Y. So there's not a feeling of like, oh, that's how I could have improved on this or how I could have gone a different way. But the thing that gets me is the amount of work that we're making actors do to get that audition. Now you could say, oh, well, that's the choice of an actor. To be an actor, you've got to go through this process. But I just wonder if there's a better way. I get the whole reason of why casting agents love it.
I also think like it's that focus. Like you're taking all the focus from acting to thinking about the camera and the light and all the other things that normally on set there are other responsibilities.
Yeah.
And how many people now could be the one that because they're getting so sidetracked with all the other stuff, they're not performing their best, and they're missing out on them opportunities. And both like the production companies are missing out on. Oh, that person could have done a better job, but we just on we
nailed it. Because I think there's a mindset thing of like I've done this before. You get so stressed about the camera and the lights and is this the right angle and all this stuff that you go, oh, what's my objective? Do you know what I mean? Like you lose that character through line because you're trying to be director, lighting, sound at the same time. Yeah. So I don't know. That's my little beef.
I was at the Actors last year.
Yeah.
And I forget her name, but I was watching a panel and she was saying she does like comedy acting.
Yeah.
She will. What'd she say? She'll read the scene as the other person.
Yeah.
Play it back, and find the gaps. But then she'll go out and edit. And put the response of the other person on the camera, which is her, so then the comedic beats are better. So she would edit in the pauses.
It's a wonderful confidence.
It's a lot of work.
I laugh because I've done that. And then I'm like, I don't know. You kind of go, I hope they're okay with this. They're like, is that his voice? Is he talking to himself? Do you know what I mean? I think we're a little bit more okay with that these days with social media, though. There's so much comedy online that involves just one person talking to themselves. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
So I feel like we're a little bit more attuned to it.
Yeah.
But that is supreme confidence in your delivery, isn't it? To go, no one can deliver it as well as me.
Yeah. do you use social media a lot?
No. I should.
Yeah.
I should. Yeah. I had TikTok for a very short amount of time, and then I felt like it made me sad.
Yeah.
I felt like everyone was a content creator, and then I thought, if everyone's a content creator, no one's a content creator. I had that moment, and I keep getting people going, you got to be on TikTok or you got to be doing this. I'm like, I know, but I'm not.
So, okay, you want it like consuming it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a lurker. I'm a lurker.
Keep up to date.
Yeah, that's all I do.
Yeah, it's good. I love just keeping up with all the festivals on it.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, I like all that stuff. I also, like seeing what's going on in the industry, and I use it for inspo too. I just think there's some wonderful stuff online that you can get in bite-size grabs. But yeah, it just makes me sad because I don't know. Like, I like creating content, but I feel like there's a craft to it, and I don't know. Like, if everyone's doing it in some form, does it feel? It just feels a bit more disposable, and I don't know whether
the people that are killing it.
Yeah.
It's like a full-time job for them.
Absolutely.
I've seen people like that create, and the amount of time they put in for a little reel blows my mind.
And see, I don't mind that. That's fine. It's just I feel like everyone's trying to be in that churn and burn content cycle.
Yeah.
But if there's an artistry to it, I'm here for it. But I just felt like TikTok just felt like it wasn't that, and maybe I need to give it another go. Maybe I'm just an old man, I don't know. But that's so social media is one of those things I keep going, do it better, but I'm not good. Are you any good at it? Like, do you?
I wouldn't say I'm good at it.
Yeah.
I caught up with my mate, we're watching UFC the other week, and his son, I think he's 14, and he's got like a UFC fan page type thing where he like reposts knockouts and all his stuff.
Yeah.
He's got like 600,000 followers.
Yes.
And I'm like, I'm going, and he goes, I just post on Sundays when the fights are on. Yeah. And he's just recycling like the content. He doesn't have to create the content, so he's choosing. And I'm like, he puts something up. I'm like, surely he goes, trust me, I know what's going to go viral. And he's so just like, he's got that intuition with what's going to happen, like what's going to really blow up and not.
Yeah.
Build this, and I'm just going to sell the page. And I'm like, wow, you need to run my account.
It's the thing. I feel like I need someone to run it. Yeah. But I've had people like that where I've had guests on the podcast, and I'll go start researching them, And then like one guest, Newcastle based, I won't call her out right now, but I started researching her, and she had like 1.5 million YouTube subscribers for like anime clips that she made when she was 12.
What?
Absolutely. And I was like, you never told me about that. And she's like, oh yeah, but it's not really something I don't know what to do. You know, like it's this whole thing. And I was like, that's surprising. But she, you know, like she's a younger generation.
It's a massive audience.
Tell me about it. But it was anime clips, and I don't want to. But she had just gone. The way she created that, she told me, was like she was watching anime and she wished it ended in different ways. So she would go away, take that particular clip and recut it. And she was good enough to be able to create that anime. So she would create alternate stories, essentially.
Really?
And that was the way that she got the following that she did.
Wow.
That's amazing. Like, I think that's amazing. But she never talked about it. Like, I'd known her for years and just never talked about it.
Is she still doing it actively?
No, she's got it there. And I think she said to me, like, I don't know what the next step is with it. Because she's a actually brilliant actress in her own right. So I think she's focusing on that much more. But isn't that surprising? Like,
wow.
Like, 1.5 million, what?
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, but I'm no good at it. I wish I was better at it. And I don't know what the solution is there.
I think like putting out the contents, there's definitely a skill there.
Yeah. I think you just got to, like anything too, we were talking about skill and training, you just got to do it consistently too, hey?
Yeah.
Which I don't know if I have the time to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think like I was saying before we jumped on here, I've got that thing where how much do I want to expose?
Absolutely, that too.
Like privacy's a thing.
Yep. No, I absolutely believe that because, again, I work in the corporate space as well. So this is part of my the agreement that I have with my agent as well is like there's certain commercials that I just won't entertain because, I mean, it sounds wanky, but it's not your brand. And also, like, if I'm working with corporate clients in this space, to see you on the Durex commercial, do you know what I mean? And I think it's Durex, it just might not be right for, you know, so I've got to walk this line, and it does play a little bit to your point around where's the line of privacy and how much should I share versus, you know.
Are you doing that?
Yeah, I've done a lot of ads in my time.
Are you really specific with the ones you do, Bart?
Yeah. I've got a few, like, and my agent probably doesn't love it, but like I have this thing going, like, you know, must be X, must be worth this amount, must be not in this territory, must be whatever. So there's a few rules there, but that's I think that's good. I think you've got to get to that point in your journey, don't you? Where you're like, well, I know what I want to do and what I don't want to do.
There was a really weird transition for me because before I started doing movies, I had a media business. We'd do like weddings, music videos, real estate stuff, like just everything. Like I was just bringing in, paying the bills, bread and butter. And then I directed my first film, and we're in the middle of the second, and all the work was still coming in, but I didn't want to be seen doing that. And it was like a weird thing where it was like, I feel like I've outgrown it and I need to step over here, but the money is a lot less to what I was earning now. So then it's like, I feel like you're going back to the start, but there's a transition where it's like, if you don't, at what time do you got to let go and move forward? And it's really, it's hard to navigate.
Absolutely, it's hard to navigate. And I to your point, because it's a money shift too. Certainly at the start, isn't it? And it's that thing where you feel like you might be outgrowing it as well. So you don't want to make too much of a fuss of it, and you want to be playing in this space, but at the same time you want to keep a roof over your head. And this is that age-old debate about the passion project versus the commercial project. You know what I mean? Like, it's that debate. And hopefully in time that shifts, right? So you're working in this media business space and it moves over, and then you're getting, you know, compensated in the same way over here in this side. But it's very tricky to navigate, especially in those early days.
Yeah.
And especially if you're feeling like the other business might not be representing you in the right way at that moment.
And I think that's the big test. Like, I felt like when I was first making that transition and I went, I'm not doing it anymore. I'm a full-time filmmaker. I'm going to walk this walk now. And I put my foot down.
Great.
Instantly, the universe tested me and threw me some big jobs where I'm like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
And
that was your mindset? Like, you were
I
just
can't do it because I'm like, I've said I'm not going to do them anymore.
Yeah.
And it was even like when I went out to going from being an employee to going, I'm going to start a media business and work for myself.
Yeah.
It was the current people that I was working for were like, we can just keep you on just like weekends. And I was like, no. And then they're like, we'll keep you on weekends and keep your pay the same.
Yeah.
So you're now working 3 days less and getting the same money. And I went,
couldn't you have done that before?
And I was like, oh, yeah. I was like, no. And then I left and they're like, would you consider doing one long Sunday and keeping it the same? You still got 6 days a week free. And I went, I can't. There's something about it where I feel like I'm still just giving up a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like I've got to be all in or nothing.
Yeah. And you get rewarded for that. I mean, that's courageous, mate. Like, because that's not easy. It's easy to talk about it now probably, but at the time, it's the unknown that kills you, isn't it? Because it's that thing of going, well, I want to make the dive in here, but it could go either way. Like I could be broke and I could be doing nothing and all this stuff, right? But usually the world rewards you in that way. Like I remember, it sounds crazy, but yeah, the whole 27 age, you know, for the rock stars and all that stuff. I totally had that moment.
Really?
Because I was working full time in a business and I just had this moment. I was actually in Turkey at the time on a gig and I had this real like just crazy night where I was like, this isn't working for me. Like it was a whole thing. I probably won't go into it too far, but it was like a bit of a mental health crisis for me at that time. And it just was this moment where I had a little bit of a moment like, I need to leave this job. I need to move out of this city. I need to do something. Do you know what I mean? And sort of go all in this other approach. And in a similar way, I had a lot of things like that happen where that business said, no, you can't. Like we'll do this, we'll do that. You can work. I just went, no, I've got to get out. That was part of my. There was other reasons, but that was part of my move from Melbourne to Sydney at the time.
Okay.
And yeah, as I said, it's at the time I remember it. It was the big unknown. Like I could, get out of this job and I've left something that I was doing really well at, getting paid well and to be honest, quite enjoyed as well. But I had this itch to do this other approach to life and it ended up working out really, really well for me. But at the time I remember going, you could be the world's biggest idiot right now.
But you're hanging on to that itch. Yeah. And that's the thing, like on paper it doesn't make sense. No. And you tell people and they go, why don't you just do this? Why don't you just take the Sunday shift job, keep the same money and work? But it's like, I can't say why. I don't know. I just feel this thing in me.
Yeah. And I've always been one, and it sounds like you're the same. I've always been one to have to follow that because it's the regrets thing, right? Like I don't want to get to the end of my life and now I was safe throughout it all and whatever. Like that's just not who I am.
Yeah.
To my detriment maybe, but to be honest, it hasn't been to my detriment. Like I shouldn't say that because any time I have actually taken a leap of faith in that way, it has paid off in some way.
It's worked out.
Yeah. It doesn't mean it's been all roses, but I can look back and go, oh yeah, that was a good shift. Yeah. That was a shift that allowed me more headspace, more balance, more love in my life, whatever it is, which has been important.
I think it's the type of person you are too, because like I know that if I take that risk, they always work out, but I also know that if it doesn't, I'll fucking figure it out. Yeah. Like when it really comes to it, it will work out because I'm going to make it happen. Like once you commit, you'll figure out a way. Yeah,
because you have to, right? Like that's the thing. I think you have to. So if you always have that other safety net, you'll always sort of crawl back over to that. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So sometimes you do
burn the bridges.
God, don't know how the advice is, but but it's worked so far, and it sounds like it's worked for you in that regard.
Do you think about time a lot? Like you've got to act now, or you've only got so much time, or does that drive you much?
Oh man, let's talk about that. I'm about to turn 40.
Oh, what?
Yeah,
dude. I thought you're my age.
What? How old are you?
31.
Nah, man.
You look good, mate.
I'll take that.
Are you kidding?
Yeah, I'll take that, man.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm about to turn. Yeah, thanks, bro. I'll take it. But I'm having that like moment again where I'm like, 40. What does it mean? Because I actually, weirdly enough, when I was younger, said when I was really in acting, I said I'm going to give acting until I'm 40, and then I'm going to find something else.
And now you hear what's going to happen.
Well, here's the thing, right? I had this moment. I will never give it up because I say this, I'm addicted to it, right? Like it's this thing in my life that I need. And it's a healthy addiction, no doubt. Has its moments, but it's a healthy addiction, right? But it's whether it's the whole industry thing that I go, okay, is this something I always want to be in? And what I'm finding at the moment is I have this urgency about what I'm doing. Now, whether that, I don't know what that means right now. Mm-hmm. Like I'm still working through it, but I have this urgency of like, I feel so ready to do really meaningful, good work.
Yeah.
Because I'm past that. I feel like I'm a little bit past that bullshit that happens a little bit in the 20s and maybe a little bit in the 30s, which is like you start second guessing yourself and you know, like, well, who am I still? You know what I mean? I feel like I'm kind of settled in that now. Mm-hmm. So I feel like I've lived my life. Like when I was 19, right, 18, I went to audition for NIDA and I got into the final 30 in Melbourne, right? And I remember one of the auditors were there, and when they were kind of breaking the hard luck, they said to me, go and experience your life and come back. Because you're so young. We normally accept people that sort of 22, 23, you know, not always, but go and experience your life and come back. And I remember at the time being like, you don't know what you're talking, you know. Like, no, I'm ready. Like this is. I look back on it now and go, yeah, he was right. Like I needed to go and experience life, right? Like because that gives you the wider breadth of colour that you can draw upon. I think. Do you know what I mean? Whether it be heartbreak, whether it be despair, loss, all these things. So I look back on that now and go, he was right. But at the time, I was really frustrated. But I feel like I'm in that place now, right, where I've got this I feel like I know what I want, both from myself and of the industry. So I don't think 40 is going to be the cutoff. Yeah. But
why does it have to be cut off?
It doesn't. This is the thing. I just made this random 40. I must have thought it was old at the time. Do you know what I mean?
Was there something behind it, like if I don't get a break or I don't make the big film or I don't win an award, or was there something like that behind there?
I think so. Mm-hmm. I think there was something around do something of value with your life, and if you feel like, I need to work through this, but do something of value by that point, even if it's not working for you, find something else where you can add value. Do you know what I mean?
To your life or others?
I think both. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think both. I think they're intrinsically connected in the core of who I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you could talk about worthiness and all that kind of stuff, right? But it's about doing something for others, but in doing something for others, I get a reward out of that too. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I maybe thought that 40 was this old age where it's like, well, once you're 40, maybe the lead roles are gone and the opportunity to do good work is, not there. And, we look at actors now like Jackie Weaver and all these stories, right, that come to it later in life. Mm. So 40 is not going to be that for me, but I am having this kind of thing of urgency that is still there around, oh man, so ready, let's do this. You know what I mean? Mm. So that's a good thing.
Is that coming from age, or do you think it's like do you feel like you're just outgrown what you're doing and you want something bigger, you want more?
I think the heart of it is that number that has been in my head. And I know that sounds weird, but when you ingrain something like that, but I also feel like I am ready for more. You know what I mean? Because of, as I said before, I think where I'm at in my life, just that confidence, the world experience, all that stuff adds up to cool. You've got someone, either the actor, whatever role it is, you've got someone who's in a good spot to be able to work with. Does that make sense? I hope I'm making sense, because as I said, I'm still working through it as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, 40 is, it's this weird thing. Did you get it at 30? Right?
Bro, I woke up with niggles.
That happens too.
I had my shoulder was sore, my knees were sore. What the hell's going on?
Do you know, I had that on the film.
I had a big night, but
odd sight unseen, I really felt 40 then, because every day we were shooting and I was pretty much on every day, and I'd read the script and I'd go, today, Nick picks up dead body, Nick does it. I was like, another fight scene with an axe, what?
when you were 30, 20 and you thought about the age of 40, is it, now you're 40, does it feel like what you thought it was going to?
Nah, I know this sounds cliche, but I still feel younger than 40. To your point, I don't feel 40 in the way that what I think 40-year-olds should be. Certainly internally. Around here, not so much. But internally, I feel younger.
Yeah.
But I get the nickels, and I'm here to tell you it only gets worse.
I hear that. But like, I feel like I'm just starting. I really want to look at, like, when I look at career, like, I want to be on set when I'm 86, when I'm 90, I want to be like that. Clint Eastwood scrolling around.
Yeah, I do like that.
Yeah.
And I think a part of me wants to do that too. And maybe it was just a silly thought in my head that I'm working through, that I need to get past this idea of 40 being old, and it's not.
Yeah.
But it's just this idea that really has come up for me this year. Like, even said to my wife, I was like, 40, how am I going to celebrate it? I need to do a challenge. I need to do like a physical or emotional challenge, like climb Everest or, like,
Yeah. What are you doing?
Why, man? I couldn't figure it out.
Around 40Ks, K for every year.
yeah, maybe. I wanted to do Antarctica. Like, I've always had that on my bucket list of things to do. And I felt like it would be a mental and an emotional challenge.
Wait, just to run there, or?
There's an idea.
They do marathons there.
Do they really?
Yeah, that's what I thought you were saying.
Mate, visit. I quite like this. I was going to do a trek around, right? I thought that was probably enough, but the running sounds interesting. But do you know what? This year's been so busy, I can't find, because to get there from Australia, you've either got to go through Chile, or it takes an inordinate amount of time from Australia. Like, it's something like 15 days or something.
I've looked into a lot. I'm going to go from Chile,
there you go.
Argentina.
Mate, we'll see you there. Good. But so I couldn't find time, and this is probably I couldn't find a block of time that I could actually do it around my birthday. So it's on the back burner now. Have you got a date booked?
No.
Oh,
I've just so I'm up to 87 countries, and when I hit 100, I want to go.
Yeah, so it's going to be your 100th country.
Yeah, some people don't call it a country, it's a continent, but I'm going
to get away with that.
Yeah, so I'm going for 100. So I've left Chile out. So I've done like all Argentina, Brazil.
Yeah.
I've done all South America, but I haven't gone to Chile because I'm like, that'll be 99.
Yeah.
And then 100. So I've left it. I've planned around
Chile's
it.
good too, man.
Yeah, have you been?
Yeah. Santiago is really cool.
Yeah.
Chile. Oh, and there's I'm going to send you a link. There's a great place. I'm trying to think of the name of it now. It's like this little artist community. It was really cool where you stayed in this city. It was like a little city, but it was all like amazing artworks, and like it was hilly, right? And they'd created slides to get you down the hill.
Oh, wow.
Like it's like artists, like impression of how a city should be.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, it's really cool. I'll think of the name. Valparaiso.
Okay.
Valparaiso. And so awesome artwork everywhere. And then things like they had the funicular, and they had slides to get down hills, and like it's just been thought of in a really fun way.
Yeah, wow.
And just like that's what Chile is. It's just this surprising place. You're going to love it. That's going to be really cool.
When did you go?
About 6 years ago now. Went with my wife, and we did Peru, Chile, Argentina, one other. Where was it?
Bolivia?
No. Oh, God. Peru, Chile. I should remember.
Uruguay? Ecuador?
No. I'll think of it. Peru, Chile. Oh, Brazil.
Brazil.
Yeah, we went for Carnival.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, yeah, really cool experience. So, yeah, we're travelers as well. So, yeah, I just think that's the best. If I'm starting to get into a little bit of a rut with life, I'll go, hey, Rox, where are we going to go next?
You got a favourite spot?
I have a spot that's close to my heart, which is, country is Egypt.
Yeah, okay.
I went there when I was 18 by myself. Again, weirdly, like the 40 thing, I was like, I've turned 18, I need to go and do this thing. So I went to Egypt by myself and was completely unprepared for what I did.
It's not what you think it's going to be, is it?
No. Especially then, like this is 22 years ago. So they were going through a bit of unrest at the time. And I had not prepared myself, had not.
Did you get a culture shock?
Yeah. And I stayed in this little crappy place in Cairo when I first got there. And, I didn't even know, I was in this little place and outside my window was a speaker for the call to prayer. And I was not prepared for that at whatever time that kicks off. So, that is a really haunting thing to hear if you've never heard that before. Yeah. And it felt like it was in my room. So it was eye-opening, but by the end of that trip, I just had this really beautiful connection to Egypt. So I've always loved the Egyptian culture. So, that would probably be my one that I connect with the most.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. What about you? Have you got a favourite?
I loved Israel. I know all the stuff that's going on. It's crazy. It was.
Yeah.
I spent a birthday there and just had the best day. I was in Tel Aviv. We were in Tel Aviv and then went to Jerusalem. Done like a bit of a tour through. Like Jordan, come back to Jerusalem and then went to Tel Aviv for my birthday.
Yeah.
And just like riding around on a push bike, like all through
so good
the city. I'm just going like it was one of them places where, well, I'm in Israel. Yeah. I mean, I just kept saying the name. I'm going like, I'm in Israel.
Yeah,
what? I mean, I'm riding around and weed's legal.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it is legal, but everywhere would have like dial like it would just come. People just like drop it off. You'd there was
I love that you didn't know whether it was legal, but you're like,
it was everywhere. Like, I mean, I've probably never been to a country that it was like Amsterdam. Yeah. It was everywhere.
Yeah.
So I got home, I was just riding around a push bike near the beach and like people are swimming and like you don't think Israel beach. No. It was like the Mediterranean Gold Coast. It was.
I like that. There you go. There's the tourist attraction. But I feel like Egypt's a bit like that too because you've got, of course, you've got Cairo and places like that, but then you've got all along, like Alexandria and I'm trying to think there were I forget the names, but like where all the celebrities go and have their little holidays and things like that. So you've got what you think of when you think of Egypt and pyramids and things like that, but you've also got the water and this kind of really like beautiful, like, highfalutin kind of lifestyle, if you will, with day beds and all this kind of stuff. So it's very similar. But I did the same thing when I was in Egypt all the time. Like, I'm in Egypt right now. This is insane, isn't it? You know? They're the best places.
Yeah.
When you get yourself out of that comfort zone.
Yeah.
A little bit, I think.
I remember going to like I was in India. I went to Varanasi.
Oh, mate, yeah.
Have you been?
No, I've been to Nepal. Which is close by, but I imagine a next level India. Yeah.
We were down on the Ganges where they burn all the bodies.
Yeah. Wow.
And I just couldn't believe that a place like this exists on Earth. Yeah. So there's these little like milkshake shops and you sit there at like a bar, like as if you're having a coffee and you're just looking at the street, but the street's a little alley. Yeah. And by the time you drink like a little milkshake, you've probably watched 50, 60 dead bodies get carried past you.
What?
And
really?
Yeah, so they all, it's kind of like, it's more for the wealthy. So if you can afford to take your family there to do it, you do. It's just very like the best kind of funeral, I guess you'd call it, for their people. So you go down, they dunk the bodies in the Ganges, the holy waters, take them up to the Ghats and burn them. And if they do that, they break the circle of reincarnation.
Got it. So that is a privilege to have that
privilege. And only men can go because if you cry, it's not good. So that and only like the strong men so you see them and they're trying to hold back tears and they're allowed to cry for their loved ones.
Pretty powerful.
There's bodies everywhere and they're just burning them and just throwing them on. And you're just in this part of the world where it's just happening around the clock.
That is a pretty incredible experience. And did you? I'm interested in this because, as I said, this is the inner life of that stuff. Is like, how did you feel seeing that? Like, it's incredible, but like, did it bring up the whole like idea of life being so short? And like,
I think about that stuff all the time.
Yeah,
I'm always thinking about death. I'm always thinking about life. I'm always I went through such a big. This is why I want to tell stories and make movies. I went through a really horrible timing. I was in Africa and we got locked in a compound. People getting killed. We had to get gun escorted out of this area. It was crazy. But part of that, I'll just quickly touch on that and I'll get back to your question.
Yeah, no, you're right.
We were in the truck driving back and we were getting gun escorted out of this area. And I remember just thinking to myself, like, I've got to do more with my life. I've got to, I made a promise with God and I was like, I promise I will dedicate my life to telling stories. Because
it's pretty powerful.
Places like this over here and events like this are happening and it's mind-blowing to think people live like that still. Yeah. So anyways, cut forward to we're in India. A lot of that come up again because I'm seeing a bunch of dead bodies again for the second or third time in my life. Yeah. And I don't know. It's something kind of refreshing about it. Knowing that we are going to die and today is special and it just putting it back in your front of your mind going,
well, makes you, I think it brings you back to the moment that you're in, right? Because I don't know, in our work a little bit sometimes, certainly if you go into the producer's mindset, you're always thinking about a little bit about the future. I feel like going, oh, well, I'm not really in this moment. I'm thinking about what I need to do later, and this is what I want to do, and whatever. Whereas at moments like that, you have this real, I think, going, oh shit, we're here for a short time, and this is it. You know what I mean? Like, it's just this feeling that you need to make the most of the moment that you're in, I think, and your life.
Yeah.
Because it is actually, I mean, I could go all day about this stuff.
Yeah.
It's just this existential kind of thing. I mean, my therapist is like, you got anything else to talk about, man? You just want to talk about that? But I just find this stuff so interesting. Like, and as I said, the feeling that you had in that moment of going, like, I'm seeing these lives there's so many of them, number one, probably, but also these bodies are just here and they're being burnt. And this is, that would just bring up stuff for me.
Yeah. And it's just that full cycle. Like, we're all born, we're all going to die.
Yeah.
And there are guarantees. And, well, what are we here for in between?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just come back to just experience.
Yeah.
Experience, love, and just be happy.
Yeah. And it's, but that, I don't know. And this is, I don't know. I start thinking about legacy and all kinds of stuff at that point because, I don't know, for kids, for me, it's like, it's that thing of like, you start going, oh, well, what comes after me? Do you know what I mean? Like you become, I guess, a little bit self-centric for a certain amount of time. And then, I don't know, for me, kids were this idea of, well, what comes after me? Like, how do I light the fire in them so that they've got all the tools that they need and that they're wonderful people? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I really, I don't know, like I find massive gratification in that as well, because I think that's that thing. Who was it that said this? But it was like, the first part of your life you learn, the second part of your life you earn, and the third part of your life was give. No, I've absolutely ruined that. But it was beautiful. Basically, this idea of giving back.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And you get to that point in your life, which I feel like I'm starting to transition into a little bit of like, how do you ensure that all your experiences give back in some way? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And kids are like the real, for me, that real thing of like, how can I help these little humans be the best possible thing that they possibly can be? And, storytelling's part of that too. How do I create stories that help other people? And that's kind of where I feel like I'm at now.
You said legacy and then children. Is that your form of legacy?
It's one of, for sure. I mean, I don't want to, I'm a little careful of that because I don't want to impart that expectation on them. Do you know what I mean? But I do feel like I want to ensure, like through them, I hope there's some kind of, they look back on me as a really loving father and that they got a good start in life. And, there's those elements of legacy, I would say.
How has being a dad changed your outlook on life and your career?
Okay, well, I mean, life, it changes it so dramatically. Career, what it's made me do is be a little bit less of a perfectionist. And why I say that is I think back and I go, geez, you had a lot of time and you didn't have kids, didn't you? You had a lot of, you know what I mean? You had time to really obsess and perfect and all that kind of stuff. But sometimes, and this is just the way I like to live my life, there is less time to do the things that you might want to do in your career because you have to give focus to your family and to your children as well. So what that has meant is letting go of a little bit of that obsessive nature that was, to be honest, I think holding the work back as well, because you just do not have the time in a day. And so sometimes you just need to make sure that you go, well, for this part, that's good enough. And that's the best I can do today. Do you know what I mean? And if that is what it is, then be okay with that. Because in my world, you need to find the balance, you know.
Do they teach you to be selfless?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's what I'm kind of getting at a little bit. You've probably just said it more eloquently, is that idea of, you know, you've got to find ways to not just always be about you. Like you can have a shit day. How do you not go home and, you know, be in a shit mood for your kids? And like it's that stuff, you know, too, which I don't know. You know, when you're younger, you're just like, yeah, I've had a shit day. I'm going to walk around the house. Do you know what I mean? I'm going to stay in this mood and whatever. Yeah. But like you can't, man. So, and I'm really happy with that. Like I always wanted kids, but I never saw myself as a dad. Mm-hmm. And especially from an acting perspective, I started getting these dad roles.
Everyone else could see it as a dad.
100%. And I was like, nah, I don't want to do these roles. And then I sort of accepted that. I'm like, yeah, actually, this is right in my wheelhouse.
Nice.
Yeah, because, you know, at the start, I think I was fighting that. Like, dads are older. I really feel like I'm playing on this theme of age at the moment. It might be this 40 thing coming up. Yeah. But yeah, I accepted that I probably was a good casting as a dad. Yeah. Nice. And leaning into that is a good thing. It's another avenue to get cast, right? As long as the roles are right. Again, I come back to that. As long as they're like impacting people in some way, I think they're the best roles that you want to go for. Yeah. Yeah.
Love that.
Love it.
Do you want to wrap it there? Do you want to so you've got your own podcast. You've got the movie coming out. Do you want to just share anything?
Yeah, so the podcast is The Act of Storytelling. The whole idea there is that we speak to artists who are impacting the world through their art. And the idea of this latest season that'll be coming out later this year is that we're speaking to artists that are at the start of their journey, middle of their journey, and end of their journey. Nice. And we're using the hero's journey to actually go, all right, if you're at the call to adventure at the start of your career, let's use that as the jumping off point for talking. Versus, you know, artists at the end of their career, the hero returning home and all that kind of stuff. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, cool.
And the film is sight unseen. So, again, I don't have a release date on that, but I think it's going to hit some limited cinemas around Australia and hopefully the US, but we'll see.
Cool.
And that's, wonderful project. And, I think they're the main ones. Got another little comedy series coming out later in the year, but we talked about it social media. That'll be social media based, but just working with some really kick-ass actors and comedians.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thanks for your time, mate.
Cheers, mate. Cheers. Thank you.